Anyway. Did you see Mitch voted against Respect the Marriage Act, which includes his own fucking marriage? I did not, but it's not surprising. Okay? Not surprising at all. Let's get back. Let's move on from this thing that we were talking about, and let's get back to Donald Trump.
Morning, George. Nearly 2 years after attempting to overturn a presidential election and inciting an attack on the U.S. Capitol, Donald Trump is running for president again.
Donald Trump has spent 2 years attacking American elections, but now he's hoping voters will return him to power.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Surrounded by loyalists and members of his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, Trump largely stuck to the script written by his advisors, boasting about his record as president, attacking Joe Biden, and for the most part, staying clear of the election lies voters soundly rejected in the midterm elections.
America's comeback starts right now.
Some fellow Republicans have blamed Trump for the party's failure to win big in the midterms. Trump acknowledged Republicans should have done better, but he said that was because Americans don't yet realize how bad things are under Joe Biden.
I think that was the most powerful statement that Trump could have made, and I think it was the worst. It's basically a recognition. I don't know. I feel like it's basically a recognition that things are not as bad as the way Republicans present it. Like, that's such a fucking bad take. Actually. Bad for him, yeah. No, I'm saying, like, dude, why would you ever concede to that? 90% of the shit that you're fucking mentioning, 90% of the things that Trump is mentioning in his speech are things that don't even happen in the real world or don't happen to the degree that he claims they're happening. So why would you ever concede to the other point? He should have said the only reason why Brandon has seen any kind of like, the only reason why the economy hasn't completely melted down is because of what I did, you know, lowering the taxes, pumping money into the economy, making sure that, you know, the economy runs smoothly, but Brandon is ruining it. Something like that.
The citizens of our country have not yet realized the full extent and gravity of the pain our nation is going through, and the total effect of the suffering is just starting to take hold.
Trump's candidacy is clouded by multiple criminal investigations and lawsuits, from the investigation into the classified documents he took from the White House to a New York criminal investigation into his company. Just hours before he announced his campaign, Trump's longtime chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, took the stand, describing how the company schemed to avoid paying taxes. Like many other Republicans, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu greeted Trump's announcement with a shrug.
Whatever announcements may or may not be happening tonight.
The trickle-down tax cuts needs more generations to proliferate. First of all, the trickle-down tax cuts are never trickling down. They're not trickling down. They're trickling up. You, chatter, that just made that statement, probably are unaware, but your taxes went up again, dummy. Okay? The only tax cuts that were made permanent are the top marginal tax rate and also the corporate tax cut. I mean, I don't know if you're joking and being sarcastic or not, but that is the reality. For people that don't understand, other than the fact that, oh, it's sarcasm, brother. It's all good. There are a lot of people who believe this, though, and I will address it, okay? Plenty of people do believe that. First of all, trickle-down economics, not real. It's not a real thing, okay? Obviously, it's been disproven time and time again. But also, the Republicans have gotten way more brazen with their lack of interest in even promoting that message, because what they did in the Trump tax cuts at a time when there was like sky high profits, record high profits, already when companies were making money hand over fucking fist, Trump basically gave another fat tax cut to corporations in the top marginal tax rate that was made permanent. And in order to sell that tax cut package, he made it seem like the working class also was getting a tax cut, which they did for 2 years or 4 years, basically. And those tax cuts that were given to the middle class are actually increasing. That was in the Trump tax package. The Trump tax cut package literally had provisions built into it, a mechanism built into it that would increase the middle class tax cuts back to the prior levels it was at. while simultaneously only keeping the highest earner tax rates permanent. This is how they dupe poor people into thinking that they're actually getting more money back.
Frankly, nobody's going to care.
But not long after Trump started speaking, President Biden posted a video portraying him as a threat to America.
We will treat those people from January 6th fairly, and if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
There were some notable absences at Trump's big announcement in Mar-a-Lago. There were no members of Congress there except for Madison Cawthorn, who is about to leave Congress because he lost a re-election. No
Big
governor.
L, dude. Look, the only effective trickle-down policy is when gifters gift subs at the top of the hour, okay? That's the only effective mechanism of trickle-down wealth, okay? People that have more gift subs at the top of the hour, and people that have less get those gifted subs, okay? And they no longer see the ads. That's how this works. Other than that, you could just pay your way for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get one free Prime subscription a month. Holy fuck. That is insane. The Jin. By the way, I'm gay. Thank you for the 5. The Raging Hoppa, thank you for the 10. Technically Tim, thank you for the 5. Blue Fire, thank you for the 5. I Preda, thank you for the 5. Cam Shron, 5. Raining Blood, 666. Sussy Joao de Brazil, also with the 5. Tamana with the 10. What is going on, dude? Motherfuckers, did you know I was going to say that? You popped off before I was done with my rhetoric, dude. The Socialist, thank you for the 20. Devin D. Ford, Stuff Coke. Okay, stop. Enough. Dab RJ, Echoplex, Blind Rattlesnake, Great Scott. What the fuck? My name used by other. Lachlan 69. Okay. This is not real. This is the trickle. Here's the 1 minute ad break now, by the way. Encoded Lua, the Cyber Fox, the Hero Leaf, the Nines, Merson, Pork Roll and Eggs, Great Scott, Beezilla, Mob Shady, Blinded Rattlesnake, Echoplex, Dab RJ, Waterbags, thank you for the 10. Drazar, thank you for the 5. Okay, we got through it. Reaganomics is great, man. I'm a fucking fan now. Holy shit. Rusty Bikes, Miguelito, 69, Duomax 95, Gnartholomew the Gnarly, Tammy Tom, Waterbags, thank you for the 10. I Love You Honey Bun, thank you for the 5. Tylerm, thank you for the 5. I'm Spackle, thank you for the 5.
And Donald Trump Jr. wasn't there. He was out west hunting and said he had a hard time getting a flight back due to weather.
Ken Marcus, thank you for the 5.
Trump, the president's daughter, was not there. She put out a statement after the announcement saying,
Moth Wizard, thank you for the 5.
I will always love and support my father.
TJ Wins, thank you for the 5. Oh, this is big drama.
Outside the political arena. Remember, George, she was a big part of his last campaigns and his White House.
Yeah, quite a change from the last time. Okay, John, stand by. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. So Grover Cleveland.
Brother, if you dodged all of those, by the way, you're cooked. Bacon strips, thank you for the 5. You're cooked. You're never going to get a gifted a sub. I'll just say it right now.
Cleveland lost and then ran again. Besides that, everything else here is unprecedented, including all these criminal investigations.
Right. So you've got 3 sort of buckets of criminal investigations. You've got the documents, you've got January 6th, and you've got efforts to overturn the election. And you also have federal and state investigations, depending on which particular issue you're talking about. Those are all the criminal side. Now remember, there is currently an ongoing criminal case that is happening as we speak against the Trump organization, not Donald Trump specifically.
The CFO testified yesterday.
The CFO testified yesterday. We're talking about a case that is going on right now. That's in addition to the fact that the New York Attorney General is suing for $250 million. It's in addition to all the other civil lawsuits, et cetera.
But clearly Donald Trump believes that somehow announcing for president will shield him from all these investigations.
Ian, think of the 5.
It's not going to shield him, right? The best that this would do, potentially, is pressure the Department of Justice to get a special counsel, right? But people forget that even if the Department of Justice decided we need a special counsel here to make sure that the impression of fair and impartial justice continues. That special counsel still reports to the Attorney General.
Does that really make any difference?
That's my point. Is it still reports to the Attorney General. So even that, and I think it may be too late for that already, but even if there were, I don't think that's a fundamental game changer. And the answer to the big picture question, does it protect Donald Trump legally? No,
5.
politically, you and I were just going back and forth on this.
We will have plenty of time to discuss that. John, let me bring you back on the politics. Lots of Republican infighting right now. Both Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell, House and Senate, facing challenges to their leadership.
Yeah, I expect McConnell will pretty easily knock down the threat to his leadership. As for Kevin McCarthy, the Republican conference voted to put him forward as the Speaker of the House. That was just required a majority vote. But, George, 31 Republicans voted against McCarthy. When it comes to the floor of the House, when that vote actually happens, he needs to get 218 members of Congress to vote for him. Right now, he's significantly short of that.
Yeah, not even close to that right now. John, Carl, Dan Abrams, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. George
Stephanopoulos here.
The 2024 race for the White House.
All right. Ivanka Trump coming after Donalde. Drama. Big drama. Hate to see it, folks. You hate to see your only successful daughter not show up to defend you. It kind of makes sense as to why big homie last night propped up Eric Trump, which was another big L for Trump's speech last night. If you remember, I talked about that as well yesterday. Mark Diff, thank you for the 5. Holy fuck, dude. Robbie JCA, thank you for the 5. Donald Trump has openly showed his disdain for his children. He is not a fan of his children. You already know this, okay? It's not something that he hides. The idea, the notion that my man would prop up Eric Trump in that convo, big L. Doesn't show, it's not good. Not good at all. Straight up. Not good at all, okay? He literally was like, oh, Eric is here, my big, beautiful boy. Big L for him. Not a good look. So, now we know why. It's because Ivanka was not there. Didn't her husband get $2 billion so they got what they wanted already? I think her husband is a lib, dude. I'll say it. He's libbed up, brother. That's what the problem is. He's a fucking lib. He's not really down with the cause.
The House is officially underway.
Former President Donald Trump launching his presidential campaign at Mar-a-Lago, his home last night after months of speculation.
Griff Jenkins got the lucky job of being posted in Palm Beach, Florida on this wet day here in New York City. Hey, Griff.
Well, just to rub it in a little bit, it's 71 degrees here, clear skies, headed for a high of 84 and nothing but sunshine. But I digress. Steve Ainsley, Brian, good morning. It's official. Former President Trump announcing for the 3rd time he will run for president. If elected, he would be only the 2nd U.S. president in history to get elected to non-consecutive terms. Here was the crux of that major announcement. Take a listen.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. America's comeback starts right now. I am running because I believe the world has not yet seen the true glory of what this nation can be. This campaign will be for you.
He spoke for just under 64 minutes and addressed issues like crime, education, and wanting to overhaul the DOJ and FBI. And no surprise here, he took a shot at President Biden. Listen.
I will ensure that Joe Biden does not receive 4 more years. In 2020, our country could not take that. And I say that not in laughter.
I'm surprised literally no one has covered him killing drug dealers. No Jumper covered it. I don't know why they're not mentioning that more. I haven't really seen the media lock on to that. I mean, I saw some writing about it. No Jumper covered it. Rap TV covered it. That's pretty much it, though. Conservatives the Fox News is not even covering it for some reason.
I say that in tears. Our country could not take 4 more years.
Maybe they
can
will
only
now.
Take so much.
Biden reacted with a pretty pointed tweet simply saying, quote, Donald Trump failed America. Meanwhile, that wasn't the only event in Florida. Over in Orlando, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis addressing the Republican Governor Association's winter meeting coming off the heels of that landslide victory last week. And DeSantis was asked about Trump's comments and criticism last week. Here is how he answered that question. Listen.
When you're leading, when you're getting things done, yeah, you take it.
Someone in the chat literally said, "What's wrong with killing drug dealers?" Dude, what an insane fucking take, man. What do you mean was wrong? You want the state to fucking decide who and who not to kill? Like, that's already a bad idea regardless. But we also fucking know that the punitive carceral state clearly is not a good way to stop shit, okay? The biggest reason why drug crimes are happening is because drugs are not decriminalized. They're not legalized. There are plenty of countries that have gone in the exact opposite path and have seen tremendous results. Portugal is a big example of this, okay? There are countries that have also gone in the opposite direction, like Duterte, okay, in the Philippines, that hasn't seen positive results. Same-day executions for drug dealers is the most insane fucking take, especially when who is considered a drug dealer is, a squishy subject. I don't think he's advocating to kill motherfuckers that are making bathtub met in their cousin fucking neighborhoods, okay? Talking about black people.
Incoming fire. That's just the nature of it. All that's just noise. And really what matters is, are you leading? Are you getting in front of issues? Are you delivering results for people? And are you standing up for folks? And if you do that, then none of that stuff matters.
So former President Trump first out of the gate. We'll see if Ron DeSantis or others join what will probably be a crowded primary field. We're 2 years out. But as we look at who may be on Trump's team, Brooke Singman, our colleague, got an exclusive interview with Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, who said, I love my father, but I don't plan to be involved in politics this time. Brian Ainsley and Steve, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Griff, thank you very much. Ivanka said that she wants to spend time with her family and is going to sit it out, but she loves her family and her dad. Yeah.
No word about Jared, though. Jared played a key role in almost every aspect, much to the chagrin of Kellyanne Conway. Understand, but it'd be very interesting. There was a valuable ally.
I thought I saw Jared in the crowd last night. I know the family was there, but I don't know. I saw Barrett in the crowd because he's so tall, and I thought I saw Jared there. But it sounds like, based on what she's saying, they want to be there to support the dad and go to all these events, but they're not going to be involved in the politics, not going to work in the White House if he wins.
Eric and Don Jr. will be very much involved.
But he runs the business, so he can't be. I don't know if he can have a job at the White House.
That's a good point, but I think he can be. I think he'd be involved in the campaign. I think I could see him doing our show
exactly
and
like
other
he did
shows.
Last time. Yeah.
Well, let's see how it all shakes out. I think there's so much stuff.
Such a weird subject matter. Like, oh, the president's daughter is not going to be involved in the White House. It's like, yeah, she had no fucking qualifications to be involved in the White House to begin with. Like, what the fuck is that? What a normal thing to say from, the greatest democracy on the planet, the arbiter of truth and civil society, talking about the fucking president's family like this is crazy. I mean, that's such a libbed up take. Obviously, nepotism is how this works. You know what I mean? There is so much of it in every facet of our existence. It's just kind of weird to think, though. It's kind of weird to consider.
Here, where do you start? It's 721 days before November 5th, 2024. So he is throwing his hat in early. There were so many Republicans who said, please, Mr. President, don't announce before Georgia is settled, because right now it can be 50-50. If the Republicans win Georgia, then it would be 50-50. But if the Republicans lose Georgia, then they lose that 50-50 split. There won't be the power sharing, and that means the Democrats can subpoena anybody they want without Republican approval. So a 50-50 power sharing thing is really good, but President Trump decided, you know what, I'm going to go before Georgia, And let's see if that has any impact.
He did talk about Herschel Walker and said, please support Herschel Walker. If you live in Georgia, go to the polls and vote for him. Would it really matter, though? I know everyone was saying wait until after Georgia is settled, but everyone either suspected Donald Trump was going to run or be involved or go and campaign for him.
But Ainsley, how many people after the midterms blame Donald Trump for having some sort of influence in the candidates and ultimately the losses?
But he was going to have some influence in Georgia, even if he were not running for president.
Yeah, so why not just wait 3 weeks?
Here's the deal. I thought it was very pointed, was very right to the point. The big difference about now in 2016 is many, but one is he does have a lot of accomplishments. Almost everything that he ticked off, some of them are reminding me, and we do this every day, what he was actually able to accomplish in that short time. And if you read Mike Pence's book, which he was able to get through a few hundred pages last night, you see on what he was able to do with the headwinds that were against him, almost all of it was made up with this dumb, ridiculous, distracting Russia investigation and people not accepting that he actually won the presidency in 2016. They act like in 2020 was the first time everyone ever objected to the presidency. But I thought he stayed to the prompter, stayed right to it, went after. Packed house, created excitement. It looked like Melania, who they were saying 6 months ago was telling him, don't get involved. She looked happy to be there last night, so that's important. So he's going to see what kind of team he can get together, and I think it's going to be a horse race all the way through. I think Ron DeSantis played it perfect. Ron DeSantis not engaging personally. He doesn't want to look like he at all wants to engage in something he hasn't even said he was committed to doing. Right now, he wants to be Florida governor. So why argue with the guy that helped him become Florida governor until he makes that decision to get in?
And saying when Donald Trump called him a name, he said it was just noise. But Donald Trump last night said he wants to fix education, that schools will lose their federal funding if they push CRT and gender insanity. He said he wants to rehire every member of the military that was fired for not getting the COVID vaccine and apologize to them and give them back pay. He said he wants to change election laws, demanding voter ID, same-day voting, and only the paper ballots.
Right. He said he wants to finish
gender insanity, baby.
Wall, and he said he's running on a national greatness agenda. There for a second, we put up a slide of the potential people who could run for president. As you can see, you got Mike Pence, our guest this morning, DeSantis, Youngkin, Larry Hogan, Asa Hutchinson, Tim Scott, Mike Pompeo, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie. Look for them, if they do get in, look for them to get in probably in late 2023. I mean, why get in too early and then just have, the back and forth, which we would assume because Donald Trump, we've seen the way he operates.
Most of the candidates will get in before the end of next summer.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Because you got to...
Kanye is the VP.
Staff. You got to staff. You got to get the best people. You also got to let donors know that, if, for example, if you're Glenn Youngkin, hey, if you're going to support me, I'm going to get in. If not, Glenn, if you're not going to get in, I'm going to give my money to Donald Trump or Chris Christie or Ron DeSantis. In the past, Nikki Haley has said, I'm not going to get in if Trump gets in. People say, Christie, no, I'm not going to get in if Trump gets in. You wonder if President Trump shows vulnerability if they change their mind. Mike Pompeo said, I haven't made a decision yet, but you wonder if he's going to get in, if Trump gets in, if he's vulnerable. So that would be it. If you can't win without the Trump base, but the Trump base is not enough to win. So the question is, who...
Damn, they're fucking saying it. Right. That's what I've been saying, baby. He ain't wrong. You can't win without the Trump base, but the Trump base is not enough to win.
Who out there can get Democrats and independents to listen to them and make them think that they can govern the whole country, not just the 40% of Republicans?
Right. And Brian, you were exactly right. One of the reasons we thought early on, and Donald Trump used to come on this show, we thought that he could get elected, was there were so many independents who said that's a really good message. And sitting here in New York City, there were so many.
The issue is, it seems like, and this could change if Fox News is able to brainwash enough people rapidly and effectively. If Fox News is able to brainwash enough people with speed, potentially you could maybe make those numbers work. You could make the suburban normal whites feel like they also have a stake in this whole trans panic, gender panic shit without being grossed out by dudes like Matt Walsh constantly talking about 12-year-olds' genitalia. Okay? That's one alternative. That's the worst possible outcome, in this situation. The other outcome is that you can't really do that because there is a inherent conflict within the suburbans who want civility, who are relatively conservative, or very conservative, but they want fucking civility, and they don't want to like constantly think about children's genitalia, and will then end up voting for the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is also offering them the same level of like economic policies without all the baggage. They're not like weird freakazoids like the Republican Party's base of support is.
Many Democrats who would come up to me and come up to both of you as well, I'm sure, and say, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. That was in 2016. How many people will, from the Democrat Party, vote for Donald Trump now? How many independents? We know that he's got a core of supporters, ardent supporters. The question is, how many? And you can make it through the primary, but can you win in a general? Kellyanne Conway was on primetime last night with Jesse and had this observation about Mr. Trump and Governor DeSantis. Watch.
They have the same agenda, same record of accomplishments. I mean, one in a state, one for a whole country. But they are both, DeSantis and Trump are both on the front lines for freedom. They are both stewards of freedom, of lower taxes, of fewer regulations, of border security, of national security. And, the existential threat in 2024, I'm not going to give in to the media and the Democrats trying to fracture the Republican Party when Jesse Waters, we should all be focused on the one person we know for sure who's running for president who should not, Joe Biden. And I'll throw Kamala Harris in there. This guy has beclowned our country. He has embarrassed us again and again. I don't care about the election results last week. When it goes to Biden, that doesn't change anything about the poor record he has.
You see that 76 years old, Donald Trump, 76 years old right now, Donald Trump, and even Bernie Sanders. A lot more energy than Joe Biden, who couldn't get through a whole day yesterday. One thing about no one discounts Donald Trump's engine.
All right, so look who's coming on our show today. Mike Pence just wrote this book that Brian got through 100 pages of last night. I didn't get mine till this morning, so I'm going to have to read it. Did you really? Good.
Yeah, so I can make my notes on it.
It's called So Help Me God, and we're interviewing him today. And he was interviewed by Bret Baier, and Bret Baier said, would you vote for Donald Trump? And he said, I think there will be better choices.
Oh, man, Bret Baier said better choices. What's up? They're all going to fall in line, baby. They're already half gargling his dick, and they're going to full gargle it the more he fucking speaks.
The reaction to the former president throwing his hat into the ring has been really interesting. You see even Murdoch-led newspaper.
The weakest part of this is the fact that Trump did not fucking launch anything towards Rhonda. Maybe they're like, maybe he's like gearing up for a Rhonda VP pick or something, or maybe that's still on the table. I don't know. But surprised that he didn't blast them more.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Rhonda himself, here's what he said.
Look, I think we just finished this election. Okay, people just need to chill out a little bit on some of this stuff. I mean, seriously, we just ran an election. We have this Georgia runoff coming, which is very important for Republicans to win that Georgia runoff. I mean, I know around the country, Florida was kind of the biggest bright spot. It was not so bright in many other parts of the country. It was a substandard performance given the dynamics that are at play. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. But I think what people like me who've been given the opportunity to continue is, okay, let's do something with that. And the reason why we won historic victory is at the end of the day, we led, we delivered, and we had your back when you needed us. That is why we won big. Look, I think we just...
How do people align themselves with the Republican Party? I don't get it. They're just hateful idiots. That's the best way to describe it. They just think like, I mean, here, let's take a look at this.
And then today, Giselle uploaded this picture outside of John Fetterman's Senate office. This time, half his body was cropped out. In fairness, at least he's wearing a suit and not a hoodie and basketball shorts. But still, Giselle takes center stage.
Like, that's crazy. That's actually an insane, that is such an insane photo. I mean, an insane thing to cover. Like, how is this a news story? She posted the photo herself on her own fucking account. Why is this a news story? They are so desperate. They're so psychotic, bro.
Which, of course, was the plan here all along. And then today,
Fetterman's too big to fit in the frame of the photos. His wife is hot. Someone said it's a running joke. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. Like,
that's a New York Post. You can barely see
This is a New York Post. Do you see that? You can barely.
God, the media is so fucking whack, dude. CNN, oh my God, New York Post turning on Trump. It's not real. It's like they did this in 2015. They did this in 2015.
See it because it only says Florida man makes announcement. So, boy, how things have changed. Let's bring in now CNN political analyst and senior political correspondent for the New York Times, Maggie Haberman. She's also the author of Confidence Man, The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America. This says everything.
There is nobody who knows better than Rupert Murdoch that the way to upset Donald Trump is not to say his name. And so it isn't just that he is not the full front page, that he's the banner on the bottom. It's that he's identified as Florida man, and they're not trumpeting him. There is a move away from Trump. I don't want to overstate this. He is still the front runner. He is still the establishment. He is still a former president. But there are a number of people in the Republican Party who are going to start making clear that they think he is really bad for the party in ways that I think they couldn't quite articulate the same way in, say, 2016, because he didn't have a record. January 6th hadn't happened. We haven't seen all the election denialism of the last 20 months. And so I think all of that becomes a compelling factor.
Is it weird to think?
I emailed this graph to my undergrad econometrics professor, and he killed himself. Here's the relationship between state regulation of charter schools and their average wokeness. A higher ed reform score for state charter systems is associated with lower wokeness. How do you measure wokeness? Is it like N-word per capita? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is the, who's, oh my God, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, dude. CNN already breaking this rule. This time around, everybody ignore Maggie Haberman. No shot. CNN's not going to do that. Not going to happen. They measure the word equality in offices and school documents. That's so stupid. That's awesome. Litter boxes per capita. Yeah, that's a way better metric, brother. That's a way better metric, brother. What is this? Seinfeld A and B plots colliding. Oh, yeah. We've officially suspended our partnership with FTX effective immediately. Better change that Twitter name then. Unfortunately, at this time, with the changes of Twitter verification, we are not able to. Yeah. I saw that already. I saw that earlier today. So funny.
Like, what was it overnight? Because if you're just at home watching, you're like, well, wait, these people have been behind Donald Trump forever.
Don's right. It feels like overnight.
It feels like overnight, right? That there's been this shift. Was it Tuesday?
I think it was largely Tuesday, yeah. I mean, I think that if the Republicans had had the night that they were forecasting in all of these polls that turned out not to be right, then I think you would have seen people saying, well, Trump succeeded, a lot of the candidates that he backed, particularly in the Senate, this is a slate of candidates that he largely either encouraged or actually recruited in the case of Herschel Walker. Now, there's a long way to go. Lindsey Graham was down there with Trump this weekend at Mar-a-Lago, or at least in Florida, urging him not to run. Lindsey Graham then last night puts out a tweet about, what an incredible speech this was, because there's often this habit where people who are critical of Trump then publicly praise him lavishly so that they can get back on his good side. And so we haven't done seeing that dynamic yet, but there's definitely a shift.
What about Trump himself, though? Because watching that speech last night, we watched it together, that versus Trump in 2016, Big difference.
It was pretty subdued. And what I would say wasn't difference was the grievance, this sort of I alone can fix it attitude that we have seen him say over and over again, and claiming that he finished things that he didn't finish when he was president, making statements about how his presidency went in ways that it didn't go. There was a sort of playing the old hits sense of this. So in that way, it was a lot like 2016. But I agree with you. This is not somebody who seemed like he's raring to go again. This is not somebody. Now, some of that might have been Caitlin because they knew that networks would not take him live if he was yelling, if he was talking about the 2020 election over and over again. I think there was a real effort to keep him from doing that so the cameras would stay on him. And then as the cameras went off, you saw him sort of slide away from that. He doesn't seem happy. He just seems angry.
It felt like the colorized version of your favorite movie where you're like, why on earth did they do this? And I mean, just the reaction from all of us, because believe it or not, we like all text each other, right? Was that there was an energy that was not there. And the reaction from people that were texting me and in the room with saying, this is so low energy. What happened? I mean, it feels like a movie, like I've seen this before. And I really don't want to see it again.
It was so low energy that Jeb Bush called it low energy on Twitter, which was one of the knife twists that we saw from a bunch of people last night. But it was, and part of that, Don, is because it was a speech. It was a teleprompter speech, and he never does well with a teleprompter speech. He always has this.
Maggie, I think it was something beyond that.
I agree with you that it was something beyond that, but I think that when that is the setup, that is always a recipe for not doing well for him. Look, I've been saying for months, his heart is not in this, and I do think that you saw that last night. He really wants to be president again. He wants the power of the office. He wants the protection from investigations. I don't think he wants to go do the work for 2 more years. This is the earliest that he has declared a presidential candidacy in the last 3 that we have seen him run, and this is a long time.
He clearly wants to be Grover Cleveland, but there are so many differences in terms of defying history. The only former president who's done this. A Democrat, but also won the popular vote, I think, like every time. And I just wonder, you've said, Maggie, there is nothing you could learn about Trump that would surprise you.
That's quite literally true.
So nothing last night surprised you?
No, because last night was, again, it was a litany of things that we've actually heard him say over and over again. I mean, I think part of why people were not so roused by the speech is that it felt very familiar, and then particularly when he gets to the part about, he literally said, I'm a victim. He was talking about the investigations into him, and that was the one thing. I wasn't surprised, but I was struck by it because that is something you're going to hear over and over again. He went head on into the investigations into him.
And he brought up the Kim Jong-un letter that he is under investigation for taking to Mar-a-Lago. That really stood out to me because he's literally under investigation for that. The other thing, though, is
Ivanka Look at what's happening with Ukraine in the background, right? Remember the reason that he was
the first impeachment,
right? And then we had Ukraine happening as.
And he came out and said Russia fired the missile. That's not true. Right. Ivanka Trump put out a statement saying that she's not.
Damn, they're getting mad at Trump for like something that liberals literally said that morning. That's crazy. That's how you know this motherfucker can't even and place blame on Russia. Liberals will fucking get mad at him for that too. That's crazy, okay?
Not going to be involved. She said she supports her father. She loves him. She said she's not going to be involved in politics this time around. Were you surprised by that? What'd you make of that?
I wasn't surprised by that. I know that, she, I think, has, look, the Trumps in general as a family, to varying degrees, like press coverage. She's much more like her father than frankly, some of her other siblings in that respect. And so I think she wanted a news story about what she was doing, but I do think that she had a pretty hard time at the end of the administration. She was there on January 6th with her father. She is widely credited by people who were there with being one of the people who got him to eventually tell the rioters at the Capitol to go home. And I think that she felt sort of burned by the experience.
God, I hate Maggie Haberman so much. Ivanka Trump is just as much as a fucking piece of shit as her piece of shit father. Just because she hangs out in the same fucking circuit, the same cocktail circuit as Maggie Haberman, though, and so does Jared Kushner, she's like, oh, yeah, it's just, she was just really burned by it because she was actually at the end, advocating for civil society and liberal freedoms. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
experience. Now, we've never really seen a history before where you have individual staff members putting out their own statements about what they're going to do. But it is a reminder that he is going into this campaign in a different way than he was last time. Just, earlier this morning, Axios reported, Jonathan Swan, that Steve Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone, is not going to be with Trump. Steve Schwartzman is one of the few donors Trump had left. So that is actually a really big deal.
I kept wondering, what's he going to do?
Yep.
What is Schwartzman going to do?
The
Now we know.
billionaires
Now we know.
Are leaving. Hey, just real quickly, I have to ask you for something. Please follow up on this. It struck me when you said his heart is not in it. And maybe it's a very simple answer. Is it just because he can't help himself? Why?
Needs the attention, needs the protection of the investigations, and very much misses the power that the office had. It's really that simple.
So the question in 2024 will be
the real thing there was wants the protection. I mean that last assessment is not the worst. I think